Hindenburg Report came out in January of 2023 and it wiped out $90 billion of wealth from the Adani Group. Some stocks corrected by 50, 60, 70% and some of them haven't recovered fully. In fact, they are trading at 30, 40% from their peak despite an apparent, please notice the word apparent, an apparent clean chit from the Supreme Court. So what exactly is happening with Adani stocks? What is the current Hindenburg 2.0 controversy? It is basically a report that has been recently released by OCCRP. And finally, and more importantly, what impact will this new report have on the Indian stock markets? So let's discuss these points on today's video. I will talk in a very simple point-wise manner. So even if you're a class 10th, 11th, 12th student, you don't have a background in finance economics, you will be able to understand this deeply complicated story and will get a perspective why finance space is so complicated and very murky. And the first salient point that you need to understand is the recent controversy. It has been captured by Financial Times. International media is covering quite a lot of it. There has been limited information that has been given out in India, but international media is covering this story very, very extensively. The headline that seems to be running is "The Secret Paper Trails Reveals Hidden Adani Investors." Now, if you're new to this Adani saga, you might not know the background. So let me just very quickly, in a couple of minutes, explain that to you. So the story starts back in January of 2023 when Hindenburg, it was a short seller in the US. Short seller का मतलब होता है कि when the stock falls, these people end up making money. Short sellers are not bad players. They are basically an investment firm. Their goal is to predict that whatever negative is happening in a particular company, if there's like some issues with a particular company, they will reveal it and let the market decide. And when the stock price falls, they end up making money. Just to give you a very quick example here, that let's imagine that if something is wrong with company X and its stock is trading at 100 rupees, there are some internal corporate governance issues, ये वगैरह वगैरह चल रही हैं चीजें. Then the short seller will come, might tell the market that hey, these are the issues that we think are there with this particular company. If the market ends up believing that, then what will happen? The stock price will fall from, let's say, 100 rupees to 60, 70 rupees. In this case, the short seller, which is Hindenburg, would make money when the stock price falls for a particular company. Now you might be scratching your head, yaar, aisa kaise hota hai ki you are able to make money when the stock price falls? Actually, it happens. It happens in the F&O market. We don't need to worry about the mechanics, how it exactly happens. We don't need to do it. But this is a legitimate practice. More importantly, Hindenburg has not selectively shorted Adani stocks. They have shorted. Recently, Jack Dorsey's company, which is called as Block, they had made money there. And in the past, they have shorted multiple companies. So comes the natural question that, hey, why is it that Hindenburg targeted Adani Group only? And what specifically did they say about it? Well, the primary allegation, there were many allegations, but the primary allegation was that the Adani Group or Adani family ended up making a lot of wealth. There was a sudden spike in their wealth because of the fact that they were able to drive up their stock price. How exactly they were able to do it? That is called as controlling your free float. I will explain that, what that means in a minute. But I had done a video, an entire video on this topic when Hindenburg report came out. So I'll play a 90-second clip that will help you understand that how exactly did Adani wealth grew exponentially within a phase of 3 to 4 years. So please listen to this, then I'll come back. Yes, that is correct. And to what extent? Almost 85% of his wealth has been built in the last 3 years. Now ask yourself another very important question, that what is the source for this wealth? You will say कि no यार उन्होंने कंपनियां बना दी, infrastructure में चले गए, बहुत ज़्यादा bridges बन गए, this that. Okay, so let me ask you another question. It was after 2020 that Gautam Adani ji's wealth has extrapolated or has grown massively. Now just think about it, that there is recession, markets have not been doing well, so many negative things have happened. The market has stayed sideways, but I fail to understand the reason why. When all the companies are falling, Adani stocks are rising and Adani ji's personal wealth is growing. Well, there is a stock market related answer to it, and that has been revealed in the report. And what Hindenburg is basically saying is that, see, $120 billion of wealth has been created, with over 100 billion coming in the last 3 years, largely through meteoric appreciation of stock price. Now, how does this exactly play out? That stock price increase adds to Adani ji's wealth. Okay, so very quick summary there. So here is how the math works. So let's assume that Adani ji owns 75% of Adani Enterprises, and in 2020, hypothetically speaking, Adani Enterprises stock price is 100 rupees. Now it somehow happens that the stock price goes to 300 rupees. So it has 3x. So how much do you think Adani Ji's wealth has increased? Well, the short answer is that it has gone up by 3x as well. Why? Because the stock price of Adani Enterprise went up by 3x. So this is how increase in stock price impacts someone's wealth. Now comes the second point, that how exactly has the stock price went up and why has it went up? So I will try to explain you that how stock pumping can actually be done by promoters. So for this, you need to understand the shareholding pattern. So basically what happens is that if you consider this pie to be any company, for example, let's call it X, then this company would have certain number of shares. So let's assume that this company has 100 shares. Now promoters can at most, as per the SEBI rules, they can only have 75% maximum holding, and this is called as promoter holding. Rest 25% of the stocks can be distributed or can be purchased by FII, which are foreign players. They can be held by DII or domestic institutional players. For example, these could be mutual funds, all that stuff. And finally, some holding is held by public. So a natural question comes that, hey, why is there a limit of 75% on promoter holding? कुछ तो सोच के किया होगा. There must have been some reason to it. Well, what the SEBI's perspective on this is that, see, if promoters hold, let's say 99% of the stock, okay, and there is only 1% free float. So free float means the stock that is not owned by the promoters or held by the promoters. Now suddenly people start believing that, you know what, this particular company X is building like new airports, it's building like ports, it's doing like everything, right? So then what will happen? Well, the demand of that stock will go up. But it could very well likely happen that the promoters are not willing to sell anything at that point in time. So what will happen to the price? The price of the stock will go up. And as the stock price goes up, this entire entity becomes more and more and more valuable. And the family or the promoter group that owns this company ends up becoming very rich, at least on paper, in that process. Now, this is something that you can check by looking at the public filings of the company. So here I'm showing you the chart or investing pattern of Adani Enterprise. You will see that the promoter holding was roughly 75%. It has been brought down, and FIIs hold like 19-20% and DIIs hold like 5.46. So the public float of the company is fairly small. So it is like roughly only 8% here. The entire allegation in the Hindenburg Report was, see guys, you are controlling this part also, and probably many of these FIIs are controlled by you. So as a result, if you add these two numbers, it comes out to be roughly like 88%. So your 88% holding is owned by you guys only. Now you guys can drive up the price of the stock, and in the process you can make the entire entity much more valuable than its intrinsic value might be. So this is called as stock pumping. I hope that this complicated concept was understood. If you did, do consider pressing the like button. Do support these type of videos for reasons you already understand. So basically in the Hindenburg Report, Hindenburg indicated that, see, some of your FIIs, they are based in Bermuda, they are based in Mauritius, and these are shell companies, right? These are shell companies that are owning some part of this equity. You guys are working in cahoots. So the word of the day today is in cahoots. Let me know what the meaning is. So you guys are working in cahoots with each other, and as a result, you are driving up your stock prices. So this was the allegation. Now what has changed since then? Well, the exact identity of those shell players has been revealed in the new Hindenburg 2.0 report. This report has been released by an organization called as OCCRP. I will speak about that in a minute because I will get a lot of comments that, you know, they are like anti-nationals, they are doing this, they are doing that. So Deloitte is anti-national, OCCRP is anti-national, Hindenburg is anti-national. So everyone is anti-national who says anything negative about a private company. So anyways, I hope you are able to understand this, and I would encourage all of you to view the response in a slightly more nuanced, logic-oriented and data-driven manner. So in the new report that has been released by OCCRP, and this has been amplified by Financial Times. So what has been revealed are two names. One is a person called as Ali and another is called as Chang. And this Chang person is based in Taiwan and Ali is based in somewhere in the Middle East, right? So this is the identity of the people who have been revealed. So what they ended up doing is that they created something called as Russian doll. Now this is a very interesting thing. Please Google what Russian doll is. It looks something like this, right? इसमें doll के अंदर doll होती है, right? So once you open this big doll, there is a smaller doll that will come, then a smaller doll. So basically the allegation now, the new allegations that have come up is that these two people ended up creating parallel set of books, Russian doll type of a structure of companies, to create two set of accounts. One was for regulators and one was for pumping of the stock. So these are the exact new allegations that have been revealed. So this brings us to point number 2, where I will help you understand the corporate structure of the Adani Group as per the report. So this is our data that has come from Financial Times. Basically, this is Mr. Gautam Adani. His brother is Mr. Vinod Adani. These are the two people that we just spoke about. One is Ali and one is Chang. And these two people, it has been alleged, worked for Mr. Vinod Adani in order to create that Russian doll structure. One set of book was for regulators and one set of book was for pumping of the stocks. So how did this exact pumping of the stocks takes place? Well, that has also been revealed. So basically, Ali and Chang, they created all these different investment entities. One was called as Lingo Investments, one was called as Gulf Asia Trade and Investment, one was called as Mid Eastern Ocean Trade and Investment. And on top of that, another layer of shell companies or investment entities were created in Mauritius. These were Mauritius based funds that we keep on reading all the time about. So one was called as EM Resurgent Fund and one was called as Emerging India Focused Funds. They ended up purchasing a lot of Adani stocks. And that, again, if you go back to the start of the video where I was explaining how promoters FII can come together and pump up the stocks. So this entire pumping was done in this particular way, that the Adani Group controlled like almost 75% of its entity. And these guys created a series of shell companies and pumped up the stocks quite aggressively. Now, just very quickly helping you understand the shareholding pattern, you can see that in Adani Enterprises at the time of Hindenburg Report, Adani Group controlled roughly 75. So this was promoter holding. This was free float of 25%. Out of this free float, it has been alleged that 13.5% is controlled by Chang and Ali via those investment firms. So if you add this 75 plus 13, so that comes out to be 88. So this 88% of the company is owned by promoters. Now, as per SEBI rules, that if a promoter ends up doing something like this, and if the investigation reveals that that has actually been done, then the company can get debarred, they can get delisted. So this is a very important point for you to understand. And this was not only done on Adani Enterprises, it was done on Adani Power, Adani Transmission, and the clear shareholding pattern has been described in the report. So now you might have a natural question that, hey, what's the guarantee that these Ali and Cheng, is there any prior relationship to Adani Group of these two people? Why should we trust that, you know what, these guys created or did work on Adani Ji's behalf? So in order to understand that, you need to go to a 2007 case that was filed by DRI, Directorate of Revenue Intelligence. This is by India only. And they had described Cheng, one of the persons that we just spoke about, as one of the directors of 3 Adani companies. Now, Ali's name had also been mentioned. So these people had ties with the Adani Group back in 2007 also. This is not something that has been fictiously created out of the blue. Now, something similar was said in the Hindenburg Report also, but this thing was brushed aside by the Adani Group. So then comes point number 3, कि यार okay, ये सब allegations वगैरह लग गए, and Hindenburg had also levied allegations. This OCCRP has also levied allegations. So are they like anti-India bodies? So let's quickly discuss that what is the nature of OCCRP, what exactly is it. Now, if you just simply go and check, then you will find out that OCCRP is not individually targeting only the Adani Group. They have targeted many other organizations in the past. On top of this, Hindenburg has also done something similar. Hindenburg is an investment firm. Their goal is to make money. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, let me also comment on the fact when I was doing digging on OCCRP, Soros Open Society Foundation has been named as one of the 21 major institutional funders of OCCRP. Now, you can make your own call whether this is correct, whether there is some concerted attack, this, that. But also, please keep in mind that Deloitte, for example, was an auditor of the Adani Group. They decided to resign just a few weeks back before this report came out. And since then, Adani Group has been unable to find a blue chip kind of an auditor to take over Deloitte's role. अब ऐसा तो नहीं हो सकता कि all the auditing firms in the world, or at least the good ones, they would not lay their hand on something that they find to be a little bit troublesome. Now, very recently, the Adani Group also issued a press release where they put out a media statement on this particular report, OCCRP. And again, it's the same kind of a thing that, you know what, this is like Soros funded. Okay, so okay, that's one point that they are bringing. They have also highlighted the fact that these FPIs are already be part of the investigation by SEBI. Which investigation they are talking about, I don't know. Whether this is the 2007 one or the recent one, I don't know. On top of this, they are saying the expert committee appointed by Honorable Supreme Court figured out that there is no evidence of any breach requirement. So see, this is being portrayed as being given a clean chit. This is not the case. I will show that to you in a minute. But so far, the defense has been that, hey, this is Soros funded, clean chit has already been given. This is not anything new that has come out. Okay, see, one way of looking at it is that, okay, then if everything is sorted, Supreme Court sa kuch shit mil gayi hai, baki sari cheezein has been good, then why is it that the stock price is not going back up to its previous level? This is a very important point to understand. All of us are investors. We get the viewpoint that market is always right. So we have to give credit to the market there. Now with that said, let me highlight point number 5, where I will show you the different parties involved and what has been their role and what is it that they are thinking. So these are somewhat independent parties. They are probably not trying to prove that Adani ji is right or wrong. They are giving their independent viewpoints. So the first viewpoint comes from Professor Aswath Damodaran. If you watch his YouTube channel, you yourself will understand why he is a neutral person. He does company valuation, company analysis. That is his role. He writes books. His books on valuation are taught at top tier business schools. I myself read a lot of valuation stuff from his books. So this is what he has to say. So Professor Damodaran, who teaches at NYU, New York University, he said that the new inquiry into SEBI would likely reinforce questions about the vigilance of India's regulatory institutions. So this is an important point that he has highlighted. You also need to see this in the context that this case that we were speaking about in 2007, 2013 maybe kuch chala tha. So since then, what the SEBI chair at that point in time, he left SEBI in 2017 and he ended up joining NDTV, which is owned by Adani Group. And NDTV appreciated him for being an individual of impeccable integrity. Now, I don't know how to look into this, but someone who was responsible for investigating you ended up with a Maldar post after their retirement at your one of the companies. So you guys can figure it out how to digest this. So now comes the second viewpoint of SEBI and Supreme Court, because Adani Group has claimed कि यार देखो हमें तो clean chit मिल गई है, हो गया काम खत्म. No. So see, recently a news came that ED or Enforcement Directorate has told SEBI that short selling in Adani shares led to gains for 12 firms. So this is what they have said, and SEBI needs to investigate on this. So this is the first central point on these lines. So now comes the second key point, which is SEBI and Supreme Court, and this is the point that a lot of people are confusing कि Supreme Court से clean chit मिल गई है. So let me show you the entire thing, what is happening here. So this year, a Supreme Court formed an expert panel which comprises of lawyers, former bankers, business eggs, and they were looking at whether SEBI failed to spot possible wrongdoings at Adani. And that expert committee ended up issuing this statement that a May report from the committee that drew extensively on SEBI findings said the regulator had a long-standing suspicion that some of the public shareholders are not truly public shareholders and they could be fronts for the promoters of these companies. यही तो सारी बातें निकल के आ रही हैं. These are the exact points that are coming out. SEBI itself has said that those suspicions were not proved and suggested that attempts to do so could be a journey without a destination. It does not mean that the SEBI's investigation has been concluded and they have given a clean chit. They are saying yaar bhai hame nahi pata, right? It is so complicated that we are not able to find out. As and when all these reports, Hindenburg Report, OCCRP report, etc. is coming out, new data might come and SEBI might be instructed to look more into it. Now you can read more of these paragraphs that in May report they said that they had drawn a blank, all this stuff, and there was a back and forth that was going between SEBI and Supreme Court. SEBI was to give out an update on 29th, but I think that has been postponed by Supreme Court, so that will be taken up subsequently. Probably a बातें आ गई होंगी कि OCCRP might be coming out with the report, but I am speculating here, so please disregard that. That is not fact oriented. So now comes the final point, and more from an investment viewpoint, that how is it that we should look at the entire development? Are there reasons to worry? When we should exactly worry? What is going to happen next with Adani Group of companies? Now, if you're holding Adani stocks, I don't know what the fundamental basis of owning that would be. It's highly complicated to decipher the business. If regulators are unable to do it, if auditors are resigning, all that stuff, then we as normal retail investors, we can't come up with an investment thesis of investing in such companies. So this is point one. Point number two, that what is the impact of Adani stocks on the broader market? So let's be very, very practical here. That see, people consider Adani Group to be close to certain political parties. I'll not name them. You guys already know. So there is a broad implication on the Indian political landscape of the fallout of whatever is going to happen with the Adani Group. The opposition is going to pump up the issue. They are going to say a lot of things. So politics hoti rahegi. But to us as investors, what does it mean for the market? Now to the broader market, not only it hurts the investment sentiment, but it also hurts the political landscape, right? And this will be tied to the election year. So my perspective on this would be that at least the time the elections are over, the situation संभाल ली जाएगी. So this is what I'm posting from Bank of Baroda Group's Mr. Sanjeev Chadda, who is the MD and CEO of Bank of Baroda. He said, and this is after Hindenburg, कि भाई कुछ भी हो जाए, Bank of Baroda will continue to lend to the Adani Group. So this is literally what he said. And if you have deep pockets and if people or public agencies are willing to support you, then at least in the stock market, you are going to survive for a substantial period of time. Now, this is not an investment driven point anymore. This becomes slightly political. So anyways, deep pocketed players will continue to support the Adani Group at least till elections. उसके बाद क्या होता है? I don't know what is going to happen, what type of mandate will come, all that stuff. That is for politicians to fight out and figure out किस पे क्या करना है. But at least till election, I don't see any major crushing might be happening here. There are enough tactics both legally and through various other channels, जिसमें this finality of the report can be easily pushed to the next several months. So in summary, is there something off with the Adani Group? My bet is yes. That is my personal viewpoint. From an investor point of view, you need to form your own personal viewpoint. Number two, in the short term, is anything negative going to happen due to Adani on Indian stock market? I don't think so, because no finality type of report will happen. वो allegations, counter allegations चलते रहेंगे, वो सब drama होता रहेगा. So it's more of a political issue now rather than an investment oriented issue. And this thing is likely to be dragged till election. I have a bad feeling what happens after election. I have already started to prepare my portfolio for a correction. I'm not saying that immediately ho jayega, but I feel that you need to be a little bit more vigilant with time. You need to understand hedging. You must definitely learn more about hedging. Now, in case you want to learn what is hedging, please go and watch this video. That is a very important video. It will tell you a lot about how to exactly hedge your portfolio, what to do, what not to do. That will give you more clarity. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation and learn something new. If you did, do subscribe to the channel and I will see you soon.